That's a good start. Good evening, everybody. We'll make a start. Perhaps before we do, I should just explain that our Mayor is unfortunately at the bedside of his father-in-law in Cardiff tonight. So I think our thoughts are probably with him, and perhaps we can just record that formally somewhere. And then we'll take apologies for absence, and we might as well start with his.
Yes, I've had apologies from Councillor Hutton, Councillor Glenn, Councillor Fuller, Councillor N. Oates and Councillor S. Oates.
Right. Do we accept the apologies as given? Yeah. Right, well, if we can then work our way through the usual declarations. Any disclosable pecuniary interests?
Can I, have you got a cheque for me tonight?
No?
Oh, in that case, then I haven't got any interest either.
Right, nearly. Any other interests? I suppose in view of the fact that the word Gladthorne appeared somewhere in the paperwork, I better declare
It's a neighbourhood plan meeting, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll declare that I was a former member of the Gladthorne Neighbourhood Plan Working Party. Any requests?
Oh yes, and me. Yes, go on, put me. I live in St Christopher's Drive.
Yeah.
Right. Requests for dispensation? Heaven only knows what happens when somebody does. It'll be the first time.
Yeah, totally.
Any inappropriate gifts or hospitality? Any gift or hospitality over the value of £50? I've done those in the reverse order. Representations from members of the public? Are you expecting anything? No? This is the sort of meeting I like to chair. Right, consideration of requests from members of the public, well, that would appear to be nil as well. Which takes us on to the substantive part of the meeting, which is to receive an update in relation to the neighbourhood plan.
I suppose
sort of
that
look
sounds
towards
me.
you, Peter.
Right, well, I mean, basically, what we've been doing is contacting the developers and reading through the old neighbourhood plan in conjunction with Richard's Palmer's comments. We now have a clear understanding of where Richard Palmer's coming from, which is not, dare I say it, on a straight wicket, but it's not very nice either. We believe that with what we've now got within the neighbourhood plan, and there's lots of things we've done, as you know, and Roy will know this and so will you, that we managed to get and confirm that we've got the land for the cemetery, and Biggin Hill have now confirmed that they're quite happy to give a plot of land for a greenfield site, and we've got that as a promissory, if you like, with commitment from them for a greenfield site in their building of 120 houses on the Benfield Road. We've also got all the information that Biggin Hill have sent us, and I've got it all here. To be honest, we all go through it tonight. We'll be here till 12 o'clock. But it gives us a really deep insight in what they've done to get everything they can ready for going to planning and going into the neighbourhood plan. So I don't think there's any problems there. That's already been forwarded to the consultants. We've had a letter today from Anne Miller confirming that the allotment site on their property will now be handed to Oundle Town Council. That will be a gift to us, of which we will then obviously set up an allotment society so that they can actually run it. They've already got one up and running now. They've got their own chequebook. The only difference is that Oundle Council will own the land and also be able to put paths in walking down to the river, there'll be a natural area for habitat, etc. in that area. So that is now fulfilled and sorted. On Friday this week, Philip Rose and I are talking here, and obviously, I don't know if Roger's coming. Are you coming, Tony?
Yes.
Right. That will be about getting this exactly the same type of letter that we've had from Biggin and the Millers, confirming that we will get the cricket pitch, the senior cricket pitch, the junior cricket pitch, and the pavilion either A, gifted to Oundle Council in full, or gifted to Oundle Cricket Club. That then, accompanied with all the other things we've now sorted out on the screening side of the consultants that have already done, with the draft that we will hope to get, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail, should give us the best possible way forward with the neighbourhood plan. And unless there is something seriously wrong somewhere that we can't see, I can't see, the neighbourhood plan should go through Reg 14 once we've got it. Say, you will have to approve the draft plan in January, which is when it will be completed, hopefully. We're having a meeting with the consultants on the 12th of December, and their remit would be to get the draft plan ready for you as a council to actually vote on, and then we can go straight in and get it all done and dusted. So hopefully by the end of Feb, beginning of March, we'll have had the consultations and it'll all be done and dusted. So that's where we're at the moment. There are other things that in here. Obviously, we've got the paperwork from Blackthorn Parish Council. We've got all that. But as I said, if I go into everything that we've got at the moment, we would be here a very, very long time indeed. And I can assure you that with Tony making sure that I don't go off the rails, which he always does, we won't really have, how can I say, too many problems going forward. Any questions?
I think that probably speaks volumes. The fact of the matter is you've got it well in hand. We're extraordinarily grateful. And with luck, almost exactly, I suspect, 12 months after we expected to be in this position, with a bit of luck, by about that point next year, we'll have completed the Reg 14 consultation and be on our way. Quite how that ultimately squares with the next item on the agenda remains to be seen.
Just a quick one. Are you happy with the consultancy?
Yes.
They are doing.
They're doing. They've started the SEAs already,
Right.
but we don't need to put SEAs in the draft neighbourhood plan. Only after we've accepted the draft neighbourhood plan and it's gone into Reg 14s, do the SEAs have to be put in. If you look at the local plan that the ENC have done, that's exactly their position. We are not leaving anything to chance. We are making sure that everything mirrors what ENC have done. In fact, we're actually making improvements on that so that they cannot turn our neighbourhood plan down for any which way they want.
That's
It
what
should
I
all
think
be
that's what I'm
covered.
trying to say, is there is no opportunity for them to pull the carpet.
Well, if they do, they'll be pulling the carpet on their own plan, because we can actually go back and almost, I mean, I've been through the local plan. I'm only dealing with Oundle, I'm not dealing with Rushden and Ironforge and anything else like that. But even on the Oundle side of it, on the local plan, there are something like 15 mistakes in the local plan for Oundle. That's without the others. Now, if they want, if you like, want to sort of say, well, you know, you can't do this, you can't do that, then we just go hit them with all that. And Richard is already not answering my emails because he hasn't actually done the work that we were accused of not doing in the last neighbourhood plan when it was in our draft. So he can't actually at this moment in time, give us any, for instance, he can't give us any EIA, which is one of the things that he turned down Benfield Road with. They hadn't done an EIA. Well, he hasn't done an EIA, or in the draft plan, they haven't done an EIA for Cotterstock Road. And Cotterstock Road is bigger than Benfield Road. But no EIA has been done, and they've not actually even started one. Now, with all the details we've had off Bignor now, we haven't actually got an EIA as such, but the amount of detail in there is actually as much as you would need anyway. So there's no... Technically there might be need for one, but I don't think there would be.
Any other questions or points on that? In which case we'll move on to the next thing, which in a sense links to what you said, because this is our draft response to the local plan, and then I think we'll take the second half of this, the bit about Blackthorn's response, second. So I'm kind of looking at you again, Peter, for the
Well,
response.
I didn't actually write the letter for the draft. I think that was you, wasn't it?
I think I drafted the original one, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And to be honest, as I asked Ian to do that, I'll let him do it.
I think this is actually the response that we are going to make to the
Yes.
local plan.
As
That's
the council.
As a
Oh,
council.
sorry, I
not
thought,
yet,
I
it's
thought
not
that
the
was...
letter.
My apologies, I thought
Yeah.
that was to...
The letter's the next item.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So you want our response to Ian Sue?
Yes, I think at the last meeting we were going to be having a meeting with, is it with Philip Stern or somebody?
We
To
haven't
work.
actually had that meeting
Right,
yet, we haven't had
okay.
time. Unfortunately, my time is on other things as well, so I haven't had a chance to sit down with the working party to draw up a letter. I misunderstood what you were saying. I thought it was to do with the letter that we were going to give to the public.
Now, clearly we have, as a council, to respond to this consultation. Perhaps for clarity we can work out, is this council still working towards the 17th of December? Or has our time been extended? Because there was talk the other night of
The
time
extension
being extended.
is for 1 month. So we do have 1 month to actually get in our objections to the local plan.
Is that our sound black?
Well, no, it's ourselves as well. I would like to try and get our objection letter in by the 17th, but I haven't had time to, literally haven't had time to do it. I can't,
I mean,
I
just
can't
on
say that I have.
On a purely practical level, I think that has to come back to a council meeting. On a
Well, we
purely
have got one on the
practical
19th,
level,
haven't
We've
we
got one on
don't
the
have
18th.
another one before the 17th, so I'm not convinced that we can hit the 17th without, frankly, fitting in an extra meeting.
I can confirm it with Sean.
Yeah,
At
if
Eastern
you,
Advance.
they've postponed it, because we've got nowhere in writing that they've postponed
Yeah,
it.
I'll
have we?
confirm
I
it.
think we
Yeah.
need that in
So I'll get it
writing.
in
Yeah.
writing.
If not, we're going to have to call an extraordinary meeting.
I think that must be right. If it's confirmed that we have this month's grace, then clearly we've got time to put this together, because it needs to be done as well as it possibly can. If
Yeah.
it transpires that this extension is a myth and we need to get it in by the 17th, then the reality is we'll have to convene an extra meeting next week in order to do that somehow.
I think the other thing, which I know is leaving it a bit tight, is because we have a meeting with the consultants on the 12th, it might be a good idea if we get them to input into the letter to the ENC. Still gives us 5 days.
They're probably
I mean,
gonna
they
pay
could
it,
perhaps comment on any
What was-
technical deficiencies they find in it. From the point of view of the policy, if you like, behind it, I don't see how our consultant can really take that view, because all they could do is say, well, it conflicts with Oundle Town Council's view, and we could say that for ourselves. I mean, if they find a technical fault with it, well, that's another matter.
Well, I've got the technical faults already, so we don't.
Well, I was going to say that's the start.
Yeah,
of
I mean,
our-
I've got the technical
our
faults. I mean,
response.
one of the simplest technical faults they've done is that they're saying that Cotterstock Road and Ashton Road are actually contribution towards the cost of the cemetery. That's not true. There's two faults there. I mean,
I'm
that's
sure
just
that it
a
is a-
simple one.
See, I don't think it's a fault as such. What they're saying is that they would want to make it part of their plan to do it. The fact that actually we've been better than that and have succeeded in persuading the developer of that site to put up that cemetery extension without contributions from other developers is, in a sense, it shows
Well,
the
they've
benefits of our plan, but it doesn't actually prove that their plan is technically faulty.
Well, they've actually put it in their plan as a benefit for those two sites.
Well, of course, it would
Which
be a
it's
benefit. Well, it is a benefit if we hadn't secured what we'd secured. Because at the moment, what they effectively seem to be saying to me is that all three of those developers will be required to put money into this. And clearly, if we hadn't got the proposal we've got, we would want that. Our point is, of course, we could and should be getting a good deal more.
But Richard Palmer already knew that we had that cemetery site free. It was already in the old neighbourhood plan that the cemetery site was free and given to us, or would be given to us, by David Wilson. So the benefit that he's put in that local plan is totally wrong, because it was already there and he knew that.
So it is a fault.
I suppose it depends how we define it. There's no harm in
Well, it's
banging on
not.
about
You'd
it.
put it in though, wouldn't you? I mean,
Oh yeah, I think
it makes
it
sense.
certainly needs to be part of it.
But there are, as I say, I mean, I can go through them, but
Well, I was going to, are you able to circulate?
well, I
to all
think
the
I did actually.
councillors
didn't
and
I?
then
Did I not circulate them? Or did I just do it to the working party?
I don't know who
The highlighted green ones. I think I
Anyway,
did
look,
actually.
the
But
action
anyway,
is-
yes, I can do
we've got
it.
to get the outline and draft in this letter, haven't we?
Yeah, yeah.
17th or no 17th, we've got to get on with it and then hope that we can get a postponement. And I think even if we do get a postponement, I think we should get it in before Christmas.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. We've got to get
So-
it in.
As soon as we've had the consultant, we've got 3 working days after that to get it in. Because I don't trust them. I think they're going for a council meeting before that date.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, if we need 2 or 3 days extra, that's all it'll probably take.
if we can get it ready for the 18th of December
Exactly.
meeting,
Yeah.
we're technically only a couple of days, aren't we?
Yeah. So it's really getting it in for the end of that working week
Yeah.
then, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've got a meeting
Provided
on
that
Tuesday.
Charlotte's confirmed that that's
But I will,
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
contact her tomorrow.
That was definitely what they said to us, but we can get it in writing, and that's the issue.
As part of that response, we were tasked at the Fletton Field, and Neil's here, the Fletton Field group, to see what that group, that committee, add to the town's response letter, if need be. Have you got any comments on that from the public? If I may.
I'm quite happy to receive those. Sure, we all are.
I, to be honest, have not fully read the local plan draft. However, the local plan does need to reflect the effort and work that's gone into the neighbourhood plan and at all levels, both in housing, site allocation, which is critical, but very importantly open space, green space, and how green space has been previously identified, allocated and adjudged, and is stated within the neighbourhood plan, our neighbourhood plan. The local plan, as I understand it, doesn't really reflect that currently.
Well, the local
And
plan as it
it's
stands.
about the green space that Anfield doesn't have relative to other market towns within the area. And if the council wishes us to prepare some notation for submission within the response around green space and how it can benefit and how it should be, how it's supported, the benefits of green space are supported by recommendations and existing consultations, then we're happy to do that if the council would like us to do that.
I think that would reinforce it, but if you, the local plan does actually have the background of the neighbourhood plan in the fact that it does mention green spaces, it does mention bikeways, and it does mention walkways.
With the neighbourhood plan or the local?
Local plan, sorry.
But are they specific to Amberley?
All I'm saying is that is the part and parcel that's within the local plan. I'm not saying specifically to Arundel, but it is in there.
Because it needs to, the local plan does need to reflect the work that's been undertaken already within the neighbourhood.
I think,
and for us to reinforce
I think the problem you have,
that we have.
I think the problem you have, Neil, is that the local plan is not just Arundel.
I understand that.
And it is the whole of East Northants, and it is mentioned that the greenfield sites are important, and that they've already considered keeping the bikeways and the walkways.
What I think
But
we'll
there are
do,
differences.
we
I
need to
understand
make
what you're
sure
saying.
that we've got Flettonsfield specifically
Oh yeah,
mentioned
well, it's
in our
it's
response.
in our neighbourhood plan.
Yes.
But in the response to Ian's
local
thing, we
plan
need to make sure
reflects-
Flettonfield is specifically.
If you can come up with something that would actually be factual for our response, then that'd be great. The problem we have is that we can't get emotional. It has to be factual, and it has to be direct, in line with what the way that the local plan is set up. If we start using, and I'm not being horrible when I say this, but one of the things that let the neighbourhood plan down in the first instance was that it was, if you like, it had a lot of emotion in it, which Richard quite clearly, when he sent his letter of declining our local plan, came and put that at the forefront. The emotion was not allowed. So he only wants to deal in facts. We have to have factual information with that letter going forward, because if we don't get that, we won't, all it'll do is, oh, well, it's all emotion. It's nothing factual. We have to have a factual response now. It's as simple as that.
That goes without saying.
Yeah.
We wouldn't consider putting any response in the, forgive me, but I don't fundamentally agree with that statement that the original neighbourhood plan was.
I'm just telling you what Richard said, not me. I'm going on what Richard said in his declaration that he declined our neighbourhood plan.
Everything Arundel does and Flettonfield does in terms of responding has to be related back directly to government policy and policy statements that are constructed and presented within the local plan. And if we can respond to those properly, we will do that. And if Arundel Town Council is happy to, because it can only be policies that we can.
Yeah, I mean,
So just sorry,
Sorry,
I'm aware
go
of the time and the window.
yeah.
If we can talk, I'm out tomorrow, but I'll give you an email and we'll talk this through, because I think we should get the words in there somewhere.
Absolutely. I agree. It can only, mentioning it can only reinforce.
Yeah.
And anything we can get to reinforce the neighbourhood plan.
Yeah.
would be-
Okay. So I'll drop you a line.
Because I don't know what's going into the neighbourhood plan in terms of green space either.
Well, again, I mean, obviously, all we're doing, all I'm quite happy to do is almost use the original neighbourhood plan, but with the more factual nature of the way Richard wants to put it. So that when it goes to Richard, he'll be reading his own words, so he can't then back out of it. Do you sort of, so that's what I'm trying to do. Flettonfield is in there as well, you know, and so is the walkways, so the bikeways. I mean, in regard to Flettonfield, I actually sent something from Section 77, which is the educational part of it. I actually think that's a factual thing which could be used.
Could be. Haven't seen it, can't comment.
So, you know,
That's what I do.
yeah, well,
We
it's
as a group, then we can all comment. It would be nice if we were part of that communication.
well, I've sent it to Clive. Clive was going to send it.
I can, well, in fact, I'll show you
Yeah.
what I've got. I mean,
So-
in fact, I couldn't open it on my...
Oh, so could you?
So-
I'm sorry. I have trouble sometimes. My computer doesn't open or doesn't send things that open properly. But it is part and parcel. Section 77. It's the Government Act to do with educational land and facilities that, you know, improve educational boundaries. It went very well with the fact that obviously Alma School borders some of the Fletton Field as well.
Just send it on, sorry.
Yeah, I'll
But if you, actually, as a suggestion, I mean, there's a slight deviation, if you liaise with Councillor Robinson.
have you, did I send it to you? Oh, I haven't sent it
And
to you.
then there's a dialogue, isn't there? Which can be a dialogue.
If we can be as open as possible and as transparent as possible between us, then we can all work together, and we would really, 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 as a group, like to help.
Well, the only reason it hasn't been sent to the working party is Adam Farnworth and I know each other, and so he was actually saying to me, you know, it would be a good idea, this is a possible way forward for Fletton Field. I then emailed Clive and said, look, this might be a way forward, I'm sorry.
But we had discussed it anyway, didn't we? And the group knew
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, so
We know about
it is a, you know,
Got visibility of stuff,
Yeah.
which would be very helpful.
no, that's no problem.
Okay, I think what this tells us is that we need to liaise, and we're grateful for the offer. Bear in mind that if the group wanted to respond to the consultation, its timescale has not been extended. It's only the council's timescales that have. So private individuals or interest groups will still have to stick to the 17th of December deadline to respond.
Which actually then, just as a matter of fact, I am hoping that most of you have already sent letters and emails on a personal basis to NC in regards to the objections to the local plan.
Well, just as a matter of interest, you may recall that I drafted a sort of series of questions.
Yes, yeah.
I emailed those to Richard Palmer, saying that I would need the answers in order to draft a response. It won't surprise anybody to hear he hasn't even acknowledged receipt of it, much less replied to it.
Well, it's amazing he hasn't sent you an email saying, well, we have done this, but this doesn't count, etc.
Anyway.
I'm afraid it's a very slippery fish, David.
Let's just say that I would encourage all councillors individually to respond, quite apart from the collective response on behalf of the town council. Talking of collective responses, the second half of this is to do with the response from Blackthorn, which we have a copy of, which is sort of 2.5
Yeah, they sent
pages.
it as a sort of
I
goodwill.
matter of
see what they
courtesy
were
to
going-
us.
Yeah, courtesy.
I think it's simply something that we note, wherever possible, if we can work with our neighbours rather than in conflict with our neighbours, it will be better. It may be that there are aspects of what Blackthorn has said that we ourselves will want to pick up on. Does anybody else have any particular comments in relation to?
Well, I think they made a
Seen
very
from there.
couple of good really points in that about Cotterstock Road especially, and I agree. I mean, obviously, some of them really doesn't really matter to us that much, but the Cotterstock Road comments do, and I think we should move forward with Blackpool on that.
I think they've also given a lot of details that we might have overlooked in our response. You know, so there's, you know, when I read through it, there's an awful lot of other elements in it, which I think are very useful and relevant to us.
And I'm sure we can learn from it.
Yes, yeah, it's very good. And also the speed at which they got it out was very impressive.
Yes, it was impressive. Can't say I had anything to do with it, so I'm not going to claim any credit for that. But I know the people who did do it. Right, if there's no more on that, can we then move on to, in a sense, still part of the same thing, and the clock is undoubtedly ticking on this one, but it's the template to assist parishioners in responding.
And this is
I'm not quite sure
You
who's
did say that.
owning this one.
I think this is what Ian put together, didn't we?
I just chopped together some of the things that were said at the town meeting on the 21st. And a lot of people there said that they would like a template of some sort.
Yeah.
This seemed to be a broad, generic one that if people wanted to use, they could, as an email or as a letter. I suppose it's just a matter of whether we want to formally host it somewhere or have copies of it for people to pick up. Or
Well, I would say that we need to put that on the Oundle Facebook, along with the Oundle info. I don't think we can put it on the Bridge Facebook page because that would be out of place. But I'd be happy to sort of see it on all our sites and in paper around the area. I'd also be happy to see this. I'm not sure when the Villager comes out next.
the Villager.
Sorry, not
The advertising.
the advertising.
It'll be January.
It's too late for this.
It's too late. So this is out. This is gone. So I would put it on all our sites that we could, so that people can probably get it off as quickly as they can.
It'll have to be in a format where they can
Download it.
download it and then put their, whatever they want to put on it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be better, although we could always presumably indicate that hard copies of the template are available from the office. And the difficulty with the template, it seems to me, is I'd rather have people responding than not responding. But of course I don't want to stifle people from making a wider comment than is in there. And that's not a criticism of the document, but I mean, it's just that balancing exercise of how do we encourage people to respond and then not force them into a single type of response.
One of the ideas I had when I sort of just drafted it was to put some either-or options so people had to start amending it, and then they could add their own points as they saw fit, which of course electronically is easy to do. It's harder to do if we're putting out a physical version, but I don't know how many people would need that or would want that. And obviously they won't be emailing them, so they'll have to send them on sooner rather than later anyhow, so we may have missed that vote.
Is there a collective sort of in-house mailing system? We can't communicate directly with East Northants. There is no internal post as such
No,
from this
no,
office to
no,
theirs.
no.
So that would be a way of keeping the postal cost down for people if they just filled it in and signed it. There's
No, we don't have anything like that. It would physically mean we would have to put stamps on letters, send them out, or drive letters over to East Northants.
Do we think we should be adopting it in the first place?
I think we have to. I think we've got to make sure that Oundle people get out and do
We'll
as
make
much
it
as
as
they
easy as
possibly
possible
can.
because I think everyone's in agreement that the town council meeting, the town meeting, was very successful. It was well supported. Everyone was on side. There were no conflicts as such as that I saw it, and everyone was willing. If we'd had this piece of paper there,
It would have
given
gone that
one
night.
to everybody, it would have happened.
People have already started responding because I've even been copied in by email to responses to East Northants. A lot of those people that were at their meeting.
But the whole idea of it was to make people who are perhaps reluctant in their use of English or written English and are not used to letter writing, to make it as easy as possible to respond. I mean, I think that was the whole basis of it in the first place. So if we can continue that and get it out there, then I think it's going to make it easier, make it accessible.
And if no one makes use of it, then
We've tried a lot.
There's no harm done, isn't there?
No, I'm done.
Well, I think the consensus is put it out there in as many different formats
Happy
and media
as
as we
is.
can,
Yeah.
Yeah,
and just take it as is. And thank you very much to Councillor Clark for the effort
yeah.
involved in putting that together.
So the only other element that goes with this is I noticed that ENC have a petition mechanism. Now, our signatures at the St Peter's were essentially a petition, weren't they?
No, they were not. I don't.
Oh.
We got a petition that night. from
Was it? I
everybody.
mean, I haven't. I've just been given it.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
well,
I see what
it
you're
was a
saying.
Yeah.
petition that
I was-
night, roughly drafted by Ian, because he went down the back and sort of drafted a top note, and everybody at the meeting that were leaving was asked, would you sign this against the local plan and in favour of the neighbourhood plan? I think that's basically what he said, I think, something like that. And we got all those signatures
And they
on
were
that one night.
absolutely made aware of that.
Everybody was made aware of exactly what they were signing. Exactly what they were signing.
I mean, I can send that off, but I just need to be made.
Yes,
It
all right.
must be, because obviously I'm handing over
Yeah, yeah.
a series
No,
of names and
Everybody
addresses.
knew that the names and
Um,
addresses and the
and
signatures
And
would
who am I
be
even sending
sent.
it to?
Well, to Richard Palmer.
So there is a mechanism on their website for petitions.
I think that makes it.
I'll take a bit of advice on it before I
Okay,
send
then,
it,
please,
if
yeah.
that's
So,
okay.
you know, just in my reading over the last week, though, I came up against this bit that E&C have for petitions.
Okay.
Can we make the point that they actually attended the meeting? A lot of people disregard petitions now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so easy to cheat. But this one has some strength because the people were actually bodily at the meeting.
And they all basically
That
signed
point needs
it
to be
at that
made.
meeting.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying
agree
to
with the
say.
inside. I agree with the
Not
inside.
somebody standing outside waiting.
Yeah, no.
No, I think, you know, that we present it, even if it's rejected, you know, we can say, we presented it, these people and E&C are refusing to listen.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, because the motion, if you like, to do that came from the floor. It wasn't triggered by us. In fact, it was David Wood made a sort of something that wasn't specifically a proposal, but it was taken up by Helmut, turned into a proposition, and from the show of hands in the room, there must have been around 200 people in that room, and I reckon about 199 hands went up in favour of it. I still never quite figured out the one that seemed to be opposed to it.
I think he doesn't want any development in Arundel anyway. So Tony told me it was the man that doesn't want any development anywhere in Arundel.
Yeah,
He was the one person against it.
unfortunately, that's probably the most likely scenario of being against everything. But there you are. Any more on that one?
Just two of us.
Sorry, over there.
No, you were first, Councillor Stone.
I will be better next week after I've had this operation. Be able to see people at the end of the room.
That's what we're all looking forward to, the operation that makes it better. Is this thing at the that we had St Peter's that people filled in, is that an Arundel Town Council petition?
It was a people's
Yeah, sorry.
petition.
Right.
It wasn't actually brought by Arundel Town Council. It was actually a petition asked for by the people in the hall.
Can we not have our own petition along those lines?
Well, we can.
Yeah, I'll send details of this thing to Emma so she can see whether we can formalise it for other people. Because all I'm just thinking about again is people who don't want to write a letter or even edit a letter, but at least there's a mechanism there to sign a petition.
And maybe put it in the hub, and the doctors, and the butchers, and the bakers.
The candlestick.
Yeah. So whatever we do, when you do those sort of things, you have to go and collect them back again. And I know with the Northbridge one, that was the bigger problem. Remembering where you put
I'll
the
take them
things.
out, I'll bring them back.
Yeah.
Stand on the street corner,
Well, there's no reason why. There's no reason why if you wanted to stand in the Freedom College, you could stand on 30 miles.
In theory, yes, but not on Thursday.
Right.
Can I just... Thank you. I think the important thing is it could be an attendees list, and I think that's the way to put it rather than petition. But a number of people put a large amount of data on there,
Yes,
which
that's
they
what
were not
I'm concerned
asked to.
about.
So we asked for names and signature, they put email addresses, postcodes, etc. And that's where it gets iffy.
All right. Or maybe we can just edit those bits out. But
You can
it'd be a shame not to use the...
No,
yeah.
that, but I think
Yeah.
if you said it was an attendees list that came from the floor and redacted those bits, then it would be
And we can redact.
Yeah.
I can remove. I can just leave names.
because people put those freely in without volition.
Fine. I think I really have probably let everybody speak. Right, let's move on. Authorisation to spend money, as per usual. To approve the additional cost for the neighbourhood plan, connection with either the sustainability appraisals or the strategic environmental assessments, SEAs and SAs. Have we got any further information about figures?
I have got, it's here in fact. Just so that you know, I did speak to Gerard about this. He doesn't think we actually need the SAs, but we definitely need the SEAs. So the total fee with the SEAs is 13,283. If you go for the SAs as well, you're looking at 14.
I think it's either or.
Sorry, yeah, you can have either or. couldn't you?
Yeah, I think it's not both. I think
No.
it's
So
the
it's the
SAs.
SEAs we want at 13,283.
The SEA. The SA is slightly more expensive,
Mm.
and it offers additional social and economic issues in the assessment process, and works out, I think, at probably about
14,500.
1,000, well, a couple of thousand more.
That's up to you. Which one would you prefer?
The one that gets us the result that we want.
In actual fact, they're both, just to go back, the last meeting we approved expenditure up to 12,000. If we do the SEAs, the quote is 13,283, so it is a slight,
So
we've
you
got an
want-
extra bit of money
So
that
we
you
want
want
to approve a further
If
1,283
you want-
potentially.
to have the SA instead of the SEA, that's 14,510.
On a purely practical level, I take Councillor Stagg's point entirely, but perhaps the other point is, would it take longer to produce the SA if there's more involved in it than the SEA? And if so, how much extra time is that going to take? Do we know?
I don't think they said it was going to
They
take
didn't
any
actually
extra,
say.
No.
They didn't actually say. I mean, the difficulty is we've got to get the local plan ready for the next council meeting in January. So the SEA, they've already started. So
But they started some of the work, but they haven't started the SEA
some
because
of the
they're
work.
waiting for us
Yeah.
to go back and say we want you to do the SAs or we want you to do the
Yeah.
SEAs.
Councillor Sparks.
Councillor Stagg, I think, is first.
Oh, right, okay, fine. Councillor Stagg first, then Councillor.
I was going to ask Councillor Peel, if it was your extra 1,500 quid that you put up personally, would you have it?
Well, on what Gerard has said to me, no, I'd go for the SEA, but I leave it entirely up to the council.
Councillor Sparks.
I think with all the ups and downs we've had over this, it might be a belt and braces approach to perhaps pay that extra. It works out about an extra £1,200, £1,300 more. It might be worth that, cover those extra items rather than have perhaps ENC come back and say we're still unhappy and talking about some issues that missed the SEA but would have been covered by the SA.
Well, you see, I'm quite happy to go with both. So if you feel that the SA is a better way forward, I'm quite happy with
I'd
that.
be happy to propose that to the meeting.
I'll second it.
Fine. It's not really something that's capable of amendment, so I think I'll still simply put that to the vote. That we actually
Golly,
go.
no chance for an amendment.
Right, how can you amend it? I mean,
What is
the amendment would appear to be to
it?
do the SEA, which is the exact, well, it's not the exact opposite, but it's the alternative. So if this does not go through, then I shall take a vote on an SEA, on the basis that presumably that one will.
We have to have one or the other.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I can't envisage that we're going to lose both votes, not even the House of Commons could manage that.
They did today 3 times.
Well, yeah. Let's see. So we have it proposed and seconded that we budget for the SA, which
I've
is
got it that
extra.
you're actually approving, well, you're going with the SA, which will be approving a further £2,510 on top of your 12,000 that you've already
Brilliant.
approved.
Within
Right.
it, yeah, 14,000.
Yeah.
So are we all clear That is what we're voting for, to approve an additional £2,510 so that a sustainability appraisal can be included as part of the neighbourhood plan process rather than the SEA. All those in favour, please indicate. It's pretty overwhelming. Right. That was fairly straightforward. Well, that seems to have taken us through the neighbourhood plan, unless anybody has anything else they
Well, the
feel.
only thing I want to ask Council Deal now is, can we sell to ENC the elements of our SA that they have to do themselves?
What, for 14,000?
Well, we work out.
I'm sure we could offer it to them for a
There's a
fee.
ridiculous issue here as council taxpayers that we are paying everything that ENC are doing. You know, and it's specific for Arundel, we're doing it. We're having to do it twice because they will not
They won't
cooperate.
give us it.
Yeah, so we can sell this to them, and if they refuse to buy it off us, then we can actually complain that they're wasting taxpayers' money.
That's a very good
I
idea.
think it's a good idea. I think it's worth a try. I mean,
Okay.
honestly, it's not as, I'm sure Councillor Robinson doesn't say things flippantly very often, but this one is a goer.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll talk to Richard and Phil, get them to back it and get them to give us a cheque for 14,000.
That's like 28,000.
Well, we just have to be
There was a
proportionate.
time when they were going to pay for these.
Yeah, unfortunately, as you all know, Richard Palmer is not a man to be trusted if you turn his back on him. I don't care, I've told you. I don't really care. That's the truth.
Right. I think it's a personal expression of a view rather than
Yeah,
necessarily
it's
the
not a
view of the
council
council. I make
Yes,
clear.
yes, too.
However, people are entitled to their personal views. Councillor Chessie, you had your hand up a minute ago, was that?
Well, only about that,
Yeah.
about the fact that,
Okay.
so in a way, it's even Stevens, isn't it?
Fine. So are we going to offer it to them after it's done, or are we going to tell them that we've now approved the budget and we're quite happy to make it available to them?
I think the thing is
At
that
a
we-
price.
At a price.
we've approved the budget, we're going to do it, and therefore we'll make ours available to them at cost.
No, listen, one never does anything at cost, Tony. One always wants to make at least 40 to 50% profit plus VAT.
I don't buy carpets very often.
I'm not talking about carpets, I'm talking about anything.
It's probably as well you're not talking about carpet. Right, well I think we probably will settle on the fact that we will offer to sell it to them and we can negotiate a price, which seems fair enough, if they're interested. And I take the point, if they're not, we might want to publicise the fact that they
Yeah,
appear to be
please do.
reinventing the wheel at public expense when they needn't have done. Which seems to take us out of neighbourhood plans and into North Bridge with about 12 minutes left. So is there any
We can go through this in 2 minutes, can't we? Okay, firstly, we'll start off with the letter that Councillor Morris decided to send to Tom Pottsgrove about when the bridge was going to be repaired. He has said that they're not going to start repairing until July next year, which is contrary to what he said at our meetings in Arundel and in Thaxton only 2 weeks ago, where he said that the work would start by really February this year and be finished by Christmas. Now, Ian did point out to me that the possibilities are that the reason he said July was that they had to get certain permissions from English Heritage, etc., and the work might only take 20 weeks. That's what they said, yeah. But I understood the work was going to take a lot longer than that. So I've written to Councillor Morris, I've written to Alan, the engineer. Alan has written back to me saying he's going to send us a timeline for the repair, but as at this moment in time he hasn't, and having a quiet word with this afternoon, we couldn't find a timeline on that either. That was after you sort of gone out the room with Stuart. Anyway, so that's where we are. We've then got a problem with the X4 bus because, unfortunately, for some unknown reason, and you've got the copy notes here, I don't really have to go through it, but I'll just skip through it very quickly. NCC, in their wisdom, contacted Stagecoach in May. Then they had one person leave from NCC, one person leave from Stagecoach, and neither side bothered to actually contact each other to find out what progress was being made with the restrictions on North Bridge. It was only after Tony and I wrote to Patrick, thank you very much, I'm terrible name, and we actually got a meeting with him here today to find out what the hell was going on. Stuart Hoskins and one other person from, and it's in this note, came from NCC and denied that they hadn't really done anything, but we hadn't heard anything. They told us that it was, anyway. The fact was that NCC hadn't done anything since May. We've now got a timeline from NCC when the restrictions of the bridge come into force, which will be the 14th of January. 23rd. No, they're putting the 3-ton limit on the 14th, the signs, and then
uncover them until the 21st.
Yeah, but they've got that 7-day leeway. Yeah. So after that, the enforcement will start. The reason it won't start till the 21st because they can't get the temporary lights up at Barnwell Road until the 21st. Then they will then obviously put permanent lights in there after that date. Stagecoach.
Just on that, just for
Sorry,
the bollards won't go off on the 21st. They forgot to order them.
Yeah, well, don't laugh. This is NCC we're talking about. It is a joke unto itself. Sorry, are you okay? Yeah, you see, it is honestly. If it wasn't so serious, it would be the most comical comedy sitcom you'd ever actually been in. So anyway, yeah. So obviously, the X4 bus now has had a route that they think they might be able to operate in, given to them by NCC and ourselves. We're hoping that that route will be published in the next 48 hours, which means we can then put it on the site, or our site, to tell people that the bus route will be altered from the 21st of January. They're hoping to get the actual times of the buses schedule done in the next 2 weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, taking
about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll get the alterations, the way the bus is going to come into Oundle and the way it's going to go round in the next 48 hours, so we can publicise that, and in 2 weeks' time we'll actually get the schedule so that we know when the buses are going to hit Oundle. This, of course, is without NCC having a traffic plan for Oundle, except they're going to put a one-way system in South Road. They haven't thought of anywhere else, have they?
No.
That's it. So we don't know when the bridge is going to be worked on, and we don't know when the traffic flow plan is going to come into operation. All we know is we've sorted the X4 bus out.
Just to say that
Up to a certain point.
people from Stagecoach were really constructive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very constructive.
Stagecoach and
Just
good
on
the others.
that point, how are they going to disseminate the information about new times?
So we are going to have to do it. So they're going to tell us, and we're saying that we need to get in touch with local people, particularly up the Pickarthur end of town, and tell them what's going on.
So at some point, perhaps at the next council meeting, we need to work out exactly, full council meeting, exactly how we're going to.
Well, just in terms of what this is, I don't.
Because it's going to be very important for a lot of people.
I don't think it's an issue that needs full council approval. When we know what it is, we'll put it on the site. It's just information. and you will get it
I
out
think
there.
the best place to put it will be in the advertiser, which will come out in January.
Well, it'll have to go out like,
Before.
everywhere.
And the
We'll have to-
electronic,
Yeah, well, yes, obviously, anywhere we can, but the advertiser will hit every house in Oundle, won't it?
Yeah, they can go in the bus stops as well.
Exactly, yeah.
People that use
Well, the bus stops won't be there, bus stops will change.
No, but the present bus stop.
Only for a period of time.
Okay.
It's very comical. If it wasn't so serious, you know, there you go. That's it.
Any questions?
So just while we've got a couple of minutes then, the route roughly, coming from Peterborough, they'll go down to the Barnwell traffic lights, come over South Bridge, come up the West Street, through the town centre as they do today. They'll then turn left up New Street onto Glapthorne Road, and then New Road, and then so they can meet at Pick Arthur, their normal route again. When they're going in the other direction from Corby, they will do back into the town centre and do that same loop from Corby and then back out through Southbridge. So we've got most of the current bus stops. The only bus stop that will really be impacted on it will be the one that's right by the old people's estate there. But they'll have to use the one across the road, and we'll need another bus stop by the post office. You know, so if you think about where the bus currently stops outside Laxton School, that stop will be redundant, but we'll need one by the post office, so we'll lose parking spaces there.
Five in total.
It was a really good meeting with those people, and it was a little bit embarrassing from the NCC point. You know, the fact that they still wanted to hold out until a meeting after Christmas before they told Stagecoach whether they could take the route they wanted, and yet at the same time they wanted to close the bridge to them on the 21st of January. You know, they just have no concept of project planning at all. They just don't understand, you know, how you do these things. So, yeah, we rescued it. And it's a shame that we had to get involved.
It is.
Well, thank
We
you.
should never have to do that.
Right, we're rapidly running out of time. What I propose to do is just let you work our way around the table and see if anybody has any comments either on North Bridge or, for that matter, anything else. No?
no.
No. This is good. Councillor Roberts?
No.
Yes. Christmas lights. I sent everybody an email this morning about Christmas lights and how disgusted I was that the company involved did not do the lights as promised, and that some of the reasons they gave weren't really correct, and that as far as I'm concerned, being in business with a commercial contract like that, as they haven't done all the lights and can't, as I understand from Emma, because obviously Emma's
I'm still speaking to them at the moment, so nothing, I haven't actually spoken to them,
Right.
so we could get something sorted out.
Okay, well, as I said to you in the letter, that, you know, we should give them 7 days to actually get those lights up there. If they haven't, then we should ask for some sort of compensation or allowance for the fact that they haven't actually done the job properly.
I am dealing with it.
Yeah, yeah. But it's important that we get this thing sorted as a council.
Yeah.
For the future.
Very briefly from the Chair. The public meeting was a triumph, in my view. It was extraordinarily well attended. I've spoken to quite a few people who attended it, both from Oundle and indeed from outside. They were all extremely complimentary. Indeed, I was particularly asked, excuse me, to congratulate Councillors Peel and Robinson for their presentations. People thought that the whole exercise was very well done, very informative, and I think that it's probably done the Town Council all the good that we rather hoped it might, in terms of indicating to people just how proactive we've been about all of these areas. Somebody did make a rather interesting suggestion to me in connection with trying to solve the problem of commercial vehicles, which was to try and develop some kind of offloading site outside the town and try and arrange for vans to take stuff from the offloading site to the various locations in the town, be it Waitrose or whoever. Whether there is a feasible site, how we would organise the vans, etc., is beyond me, but I think it might be worth having a little bit of a think about. And on that note, and since my watch says 8 o'clock,